Jim and Carrie, and thanks to Ryan for those couple of songs. That was awesome. He did a great job. All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome. It's back here, actually. Let me get it where I stowed it. Looks less professional when you're the sound man and the person up front. Here you go. I thought that I would just give you guys one to share because that's all I wanted to turn on. All right.
Check. Sorry. That was really good, Ryan. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Ryan and I have emailed, but we've never officially met. Hi, Ryan. I'm Carrie.
Well, great. Well, tell us just really quickly who you guys are, and I guess kind of how you ended up here at Grace Union, how long you've been here, all that kind of good stuff. So,
Carrie.
And Jim.
And Delicato. And I lead worship here. And Jimmy is the baby whisperer, as they call him in the back. He works in the back in the nursery. And we've been attending Grace Union since I was pregnant with Danny, our oldest, in 2007. So that's 11 years. Wow. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, not yet.
So what originally brought you? How did you end up at Grace Union?
Do you want to?
Let me grab this.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're going to give a dissertation on speaking in tongues later. That's why I brought it up. I'm kidding. This is being recorded. I'm just kidding.
Internet, yeah.
No, we're not. We did bring notes, though. So just grab this out of my hand. You're used to this, so just grab this out of my hand if I'm talking too much. I'm the extrovert in the relationship. That'll never happen again, where I give you permission to do that, by the way. So we came because it's a trick. We came because we were looking for a place where we both could feel comfortable worshiping together. Because we both have really different religious backgrounds. Jim was raised Catholic, and I was raised in an independent Pentecostal church, which are like complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And when we got married, it was important, and especially when I got pregnant, it was important for us to find a church that had young families that we could identify with. And we just fell in love with, it was Southside at the time, and Earl was the pastor, and we just fell in love with him and Renea. And do you have anything to add?
No, I was just going to say real quick, like something that attracted me was Pastor Earl and Renea before you became the pastor. They just seemed to me like they were very caring people. They made it a priority to come see how my family was doing when my dad had a stroke. I felt a genuineness about them. People here want to belong and get along with our church family and don't tend to be legalistic, judgmental, et cetera, et cetera. For me, like being raised Catholic in South City, like I feel like this is like a parish with like families. So it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like a epiphany that I went to. You got your community of Christians.
That's good. So what's kept you guys here all these years after 11 years?
Stubbornness. No. But well, that's not on the list of questions.
It is.
That's number one.
You get one. No, it's good that we can laugh.
No.
You answer.
Well, I mean, kind of what I said.
It's family. I mean, hi, friends. You're all our friends and family, and you make connections with people. And as we're going to talk about later, we have a tribe here. This is our village, and they're helping us in every way in raising our children, and we'll talk about that, and keeping our marriage strong, and yeah,
That's good.
we just love it here.
So you mentioned coming from very different. I mean, obviously you were both believers in Jesus. You were both Christians to begin with. So it's not like it's all that different, but from very different traditions and very different ways of expressing that. So has that been a challenge over the years as you guys have kind of followed Jesus together from two very different starting points?
Well, we're two very different people. And to say that like opposites attract, we're the embodiment of that, because like I said, as you can tell, I'm a true extrovert and I'm very emotionally led, driven. I'm a very people touchy-feely person, and you're kind of not. You're more like a logical thinker, and
I'd rather be in the back with the babies, you know.
and I would rather be up on stage singing. So, but no, that's just kind of, I think that's what attracted us to each other too, that we are so very different. And over the years, it's a good thing that God is at the center of our marriage, because I think the enemy wanted to magnify our differences and kind of make them so big that we would turn against each other. And don't get me wrong, sometimes there are big differences and it's a big obstacle. I think that's pretty much every marriage has to get over that hump where you experience the same events, but you process them very differently. I think that's men and women in general, but especially for us being very different. And yeah, but I think that God, because of our families and our Christian faith and putting God where he needs to be in our marriage, he takes those differences and he makes us stronger and better with each other. He knows that we needed what the other brings.
No, I mean, at first, you know, honestly, at first it was kind of weird going to her church, right? Because, you know, when you're raised a different way, things can be, you know, different to you.
Going from a Catholic church to a Pentecostal church is very different.
Well, and same way going the other way, but
Right.
for me, I've always looked for like just genuineness, and you know, I don't care what church it is, as long as the people are genuine, you know.
I just think I was really cute when we first met, so you didn't mind that.
Well, that too.
That
Yes.
we
Yeah.
that we didn't have.
That's true.
Attraction overcomes a great deal of heresy, huh? So, I mean, I've seen that. It just, you know, I think a lot of people experience that, but just the idea, and I think that that's always a choice that we make, is that when you start off, you're often attracted to someone who's very different than you, and then there comes a point where you have to make a decision to remain positive about those things that, you know, because it starts off, it's so amazing, I love, they're nothing like me in that, and then 5 years in, that's going to be the first thing that makes you angry is, I would never do, and I think there does have to be a conscious choice to remain positive about the things that were at first so attractive, right? Like that great beard. Well, great. Well, we're going to kind of change gears a little bit. So right after, you guys went through a miscarriage in 2011, and so kind of tell us a little bit about that and what you were thinking and kind of what that process was like for both of you guys.
So for okay, well, I normally
She
don't
told
do
him
this
he's
kind of
allowed to
stuff.
hold it.
I'm not one of these kind of guys, you know. So for me, I remember I was in the middle of finishing my basement. I remember I remember fixating on the wall I was putting up. I somehow was comforted in trying to not think about it. I had no control over it, and I couldn't stand it because I'm a fixer kind of guy. Her mom was over a lot and was comforting her. Looking back, I am ashamed that I wasn't emotionally there for her like I should have been. It's like her mom kind of jumped in and took over, and so I could just kind of, you know, get into my Aaron cocoon, which he gets it from me, so.
Well, it was a pretty traumatizing thing to have happened. So I think we both were freaked out by it because it was not a slow. it happened over like Christmas Eve, and then I was in the ER on Christmas Day. So it really freaked us out to have the miscarriage. And it's funny. It's not funny, but I'm a writer, so I am like, he's building physical walls, but like that's so metaphorical. Like he's downstairs building walls after this very traumatizing thing happens. So that was challenging to us, and it freaked us out. And I think I was probably more scared to get pregnant. I had this weird superstition that we had to have another Christmas go by, and so we waited, over a year to get pregnant with Aaron. And then when we decided to, we did. It was an easy pregnancy. I had gestational diabetes with him, but other than that, it was, I'm just a miserable pregnant woman. So well, some people aren't. And I don't like those people. But no, we got pregnant, and it was the best thing ever. And then he was born, and he was just perfect.
So what was life? So you got up to Aaron, but tell me about life after Aaron and how things changed then.
Well, for the first year of his life, he was, like I said, he was perfect. And we called him Sunshine and Smiley, and he brought so much joy to both of our families, and just his big brother. We just loved him. And he was one of those babies where you say like really inappropriate things to them, like, I'm gonna smother barbecue sauce on your thighs and eat you up. Like, like that's what I mean, he was just so fat, and he was beautiful, and he was like we called him like big fat baby and fat little angel and stuff. I mean, he just has big old eyes, and he was perfect, and he was developing on time, and he was hitting those milestones. And I have a video of him waving to us and saying and mimicking me. So I would say hi, and he'd say hi. It was just beautiful.
I mean, like you said, to me, I see perfection. I mean, with my boys, I'm just wired that way. I'm one of those, everybody else can see things wrong, but I can't. I mean, I love little babies. I love the kids in the back, and it's just they're precious. I don't know. So right here, I'm reading what was life like after Aaron was born, and I just said incredible. I would have had tons of kids if possible. You know that. I love babies. Each time my boys were born, it was amazing. God is always there in a delivery room. I think that's all I got.
So as time began to go by, you guys began to notice some things and some things that kind of caused questions. So talk us through that process.
After Aaron turned 1 was when I began to notice that he had stopped developing with communication. He wasn't talking at all, and whenever we would try to get him to talk, he would divert his eyes or bang his head on the back of the high chair. He was what we later found out was stimming, and he would get real close to the television, real close to our faces, which we thought was adorable because he was like, but he was stimming on our faces. And he would hold up letters. He was obsessed with letters and numbers. He's very smart. He could spell before he could talk. And so he was what they call hyperlexic. And so he would hold the letters real close to his face, and, just those little quirky things that, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I noticed those things. They were in my face every day, all the time. And simple things like hi and goodbye. He wouldn't say hi or goodbye. And it wasn't really affecting him relationally because we have such a loving family that he was still able to form attachments to Papa and Gaga, and he was still able to form attachments to his brother. And so what seemed like just, big things to me, other people, and they meant well, they just said, oh no, he can't have autism because he's so affectionate, or he's so happy, or he's so fill in the blank. But I just had a suspicion for about 2 years until we got him diagnosed that there was something going on. And I have to say, before you say your thing, because I know you have your thing to say, that it can be very isolating when you are the one that sees the issue and you're the one that sees the problem. And it can make you question your sanity. You can think, am I crazy? Am I trying to project something onto my kid that's not true? It can drive a wedge between you and your friends. It can be very, like I said, isolating. And even though people mean well and they're trying to be optimistic for you, it's hard being the one who sees the thing. And with Jimmy right here, I'll just brag on him and say, he's the world's best dad. And you had a sermon one time about how God loves his children, and that's how Jimmy loves his children. You use the word lavishly. I always remember that because it reminds me of Jimmy. He lavishly loves his babies. Like, he just pours love out to them. He does not hold anything back as a dad. I want to make me cry. He doesn't hold anything back. He is such a good dad. And so he sees them, like he said, he just sees them with rose-colored glasses. He's fine. He would say that a lot. Oh, this kid's perfect. He's fine. He's fine. I even remember, I'm going to tell this story. It wasn't in my notes, but I'm going to tell it anyway because this is really funny. Probably inappropriate, so just, yeah. But one time we were trying to get him to point to body parts that we thought, because for a while he was not giving any feedback. And so we didn't know what he knew until he started pointing to letters whenever we would ask him letters. And then we were like, well, this clearly isn't an IQ thing. There's something else happening. And so one time he was in the bathtub, and I remember he said, and we were going through body parts, and he got a few of them, and then you said the body part that boys have.
Is it ear?
Yeah, it's ear. And then Jimmy was so proud. You were like, he knows where his winky is. That boy is going to be fine. And it was the funniest thing. It was like, yeah, he's fine. If he knows where that is, he is good to go. Like, smooth sailing. Sorry, that wasn't in my notes. That's how Jimmy is.
Well, no, because I actually remember that she came into me like, he was in the tub, and she came into me all like stressed out and worried. Something's wrong with him. He's not pointing out his eye or whatever. And I figured, well, he's just not paying attention. Kids are all different. He's not like Danny, so what? Doesn't mean that anything's wrong with him. That's my thinking, So yeah, I walked in there and I said, Aaron, where's your winky? And he grabbed right there, and I said, see, he's fine. He's going to be fine, Carrie. So
next question.
Well, no, I mean, so yeah, I mean, Carrie definitely saw, like, from my perspective, I didn't see a decline the way she saw it. Like, in my mind, it's just, well, kids are different. And again, I got blinders on. He's perfect. So I didn't really see the decline. What I noticed is, when I work in the back there, I noticed that, as the kids were all getting older, Aaron was still kind of the same, not talking when his buddies were starting to talk more. So that stuff I noticed. But she noticed it all like way before I did. I think that's about it.
So then as doctor's appointments started, walk me through that and kind of what you guys were hearing and what that did to you.
Well, it's pretty standard to think that your kid might have hearing problems, so we took him to get his hearing checked a couple of times. And at every doctor's visit, I would bring up the language issue and the eye contact. And again, unless they're doing something deliberate, or not deliberate, but unless the doctor can see behavior, sometimes they're reluctant to say. So we waited until he was about 3 years old. But in the meantime, since I had suspected something was going on, I did a lot of research. I tried to read as much as I could, just because I just knew. And we had enrolled him in Missouri First Steps, so there was at-home therapy that they were kind of teaching me how to help him at home. And then from there, he went into special school district and was in preschool, a preschool classroom that he had adjusted pretty well to, even before his diagnosis. So we did have some supports in place before he was medically diagnosed. But I think that eventually we kind of flat out asked the teacher, "What do you think?" You know, and they had suggested ABA therapy, which is therapy specific to kids with autism. And they suggested that even before he was medically diagnosed with it. Do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, looking back on it, it like all the multiple hearing tests, like all that stuff's kind of red flags. But it's funny because when you're, when you don't have any kid with autism or whatever, you don't know any of that stuff. So you, right, you don't have a frame of reference. So looking back on it, yeah, it's like those hearing tests were kind of red flags, I think. But again, he's perfect, so it don't matter.
There was nothing, yeah, they didn't see anything, they didn't find anything wrong with his hearing, even though he had like ear infections before and stuff. His hearing's fine, he just wasn't stopping whenever we would call his name or looking at us, yeah, when we would talk to him.
So now you get the actual word, you get the diagnosis, autism. So talk me through that. So I mean, I assume for you it's more, you've kind of suspected it all along, and it's a very different process than it was for Jimmy, but kind of talk us through what that was.
So for me, I was kind of hurt for the first few days because it is hard, hearing some professional, say that, yeah, I think he has autism. And I remember
the way she said it.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of said it out of nowhere, but I think she did it on purpose. I think, she had to tell us, and that's good. But I remember when there's like level 1, 2, and 3 diagnosis for autism, and I remember she said I was going to give him level 2 because level 2 is the middle. If we give him just the minor, the high functioning autism or whatever, then he won't qualify for stuff. And I remember thinking, and I actually asked her, I was trying to kind of pin her into saying that really he's a level 1, but we're going to put it at level 2 just to, to help you guys out. Like I was hoping she would say that, but she said no. She basically said, he is level 2. So don't be confused by that. He is level 2. And I remember that kind of hurt. I'm trying to downplay it a little bit and have her help me out, but she told me it was level 2, not level 1. So, it did kind of hurt for the first few days, but then for me, I put my blinders back on. I can't help but see him as a perfect little boy. I know I've said this a million times, but I said we do kind of baby him a little more now. I think it's very important that he knows that he is created in God's image and is loved so much. I'm weird about talking around him about having special needs because I want him to grow up thinking that he can do anything. I'm real weird about like I don't want him to get a crutch, in life. I want him to fight, and he can. I believe he can do that. I mean, I got tough mom and dad who are great, so that's just the way I was raised. So I believe he can do it too.
Well, Yeah, and I remember the couple of days following his diagnosis, you kept kind of rationalizing it too. And I think that's just the way that you cope. And this is an example of us experiencing the same event and having two very different reactions to it. And so after I think your initial, you kind of rationalized it, you kind of went through a phase where you did try to downplay or say, well, he can grow out of this. And we kind of discovered that together that no, I mean, this is something that is real, and we have to deal with this and get the help for him that he needs. But my story is a lot different because I don't know what happened. I kind of lost my mind, and I don't say that lightly. I think I was trying to get ahead of the shock and the pain of having a child with special needs. Because it's not the dream that you dream for your kids. It's just not. Let's be honest. That's not, if any of us could choose, that's not what we had in mind. That's not what you have in mind. You don't have in mind that there's going to be challenges for your kids, and that you're going to have to be responsible for some of those, overcoming some of those. And so, I hit a wall. And it was, I think because I was trying to control my emotional reaction so much I knew what was coming. I knew what the doctor was going to say, but it wasn't something I wanted to be right about. So it wasn't vindicating. There was no vindication there. I still felt isolated. I still felt very alone, overwhelmed. I used that word a lot during that time. And I spiraled. And it felt like such a burden to me as the person, again, who stays home with him. I stay home with him, and I was trying to implement all of this education that I was getting from the therapists and the preschool teachers, and I was trying to do that at home with him, and it just felt insurmountable. It just felt like I started saying cataclysmic things like they would be better off without me. Our boys would be better off without me. Aaron needs a smarter mom. Aaron needs a stronger mom. Jimmy needs a better wife who can handle all of this. And I remember I was thinking some pretty dark thoughts in a pretty dark place. And, I had never experienced thoughts about like hurting myself before. That had never been a thing. And along with that was shame, because here I am, a person of faith. I'm a leader in the church. I'm leading worship. I'm supposed to be handling this better. I'm supposed to be strong. And people are looking to me, in this time to see how I'm handling it. And I felt so shameful. And I remember it doesn't end there, because it was just a couple months that was a really dark time. And I remember coming here on a ladies' night. Thank God for Ashley Daniels. Just put that on record. And her ladies' nights, because I came and I stayed afterwards to help. Like I could, like I was in any position to help. But I stayed afterwards to help, and I'm glad I did, because there were about 4 women that I couldn't contain it anymore, and I kind of lost it in front of them. And Bethy was one, love you, girl. And I just kind of poured it all out. I like vomited emotion everywhere. And they were so loving and understanding and not judgmental. And they kind of talked me down from the shame. And they told me it was okay to go get help. If I needed help, go get some help. What are you waiting for, And so they picked me up like your tribe is supposed to. That's what church is for, and you need friends, and even Jesus needed friends, His followers didn't just follow him, they shared life with him. They did life together. and they were his friends. And so, you know, after that, I did not feel so isolated and so alone. And I think that's what shame needs. So when you're in a spot like that and you're ashamed, the worst thing you can do is to keep it to yourself and not tell someone about it. Because when you bring your hurt and your pain into the light and your shame, it just can't survive there. With people who are empathetic, you know, with people who say, I've been here, and you'll get better. There's help. Sorry, I went on a little while.
No, I think that's good. I think that all of us kind of spend time pretending like we got it together, and everyone else pretends for the sake of everyone else. And when someone finally says, "Hey, I'm broken, I'm hurting," you actually, not only do you get healed, but you give permission to other people to get to be who they are as well. So I think that's huge. So talk to me about how parenting and your relationship has changed now in light of all that happened with Aaron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I forgot what I was going to say. That last part went on a little long. So I wrote it down. Oh, no, this is good. Let me read this. You know what? I think I'm just going to read it. Hang on. This is good.
No, Jimmy, you don't talk. This is good.
I like it that way.
This is why we work. Okay, I'm going to read this. Okay, getting over the hump of the initial diagnosis was hard, and I can't say we still don't have our overwhelming days. But God is so good. He knew that we would be overwhelmed, and he knew we would need help. He knew all along that Aaron would have special needs. Nothing shocks him. So there's a saying that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. And I don't like that saying because, as a matter of fact, yeah, we have more than we can handle all the time. And when we're honest, it's like life is more than we can handle. And especially if you're a parent of someone with special needs, you know that is more than you can handle. And it takes every ounce of strength that you have and then some. And you know, Aaron's needs, they're more than we can handle. I like saying this instead, that God gives us what he can handle. And he can handle anything. And he put things in place long ago for our child. He was looking out for Aaron before he was born. You know, the Bible says, I knew you when you were in your mother's womb. I knew you before you were born. And he knew Aaron. And he put long ago, he gave me a mother of faith who prays every day for her grandchildren. And long ago, he gave Jim and Diane, who are so strong and have such a strong family unit, and they put a hedge of protection around our boys, and they just love him so much. And he brought us to Grace Union Church, where God knew, 11 years ago, we needed this church, and we would need it for a time like this. He knew to put us here, and he knew to put Aaron in Miss Angela's classroom, where she loves him. I mean, she loves him, and she makes such special allowances for him. And he knew that Danny would be a huge personality that Aaron would not be able to ignore, and would teach him how to laugh and sing and read. I mean, Danny has been just the best big brother ever. And he knew that Jimmy and I, as different as two people can be, would come together and give this boy like such unique and different things that are specific to what he needs. And so we each bring him our differences, and they're good for him. They make him stronger. They make him better. And, something that could have been seen as a disappointment, but it's not. And it's not a burden. And I can honestly say I had to go through that dark time, but it's not a burden to care for him. It's an honor. It's such an honor. And we see it like that now, that we were chosen to take care of this beautiful child whose future is, in God's hands. It's amazing now that we get to be a part of his life, that we get to pour into his life. And it's not overwhelming. It's not a burden. And it's hard. I'm not glossing over it. It's a hard thing. But it's an honor. And I know you feel the same way. Is there anything you want to?
No, I mean, is all Carrie's she's an amazing mom. I mean, I never liked school, until I was halfway through college, where I took computer science, and finally I'm like, hey, there's a point to school. But Carrie's always been gifted. I mean, she's smart. She reads to the boys. The boys can read. I mean, Danny was saying, they say they're ABCs frontwards, but they do things I could never do. Not even right now. Danny recites on Facebook I shared the other day, where Danny, in front of his whole class, he's just reciting every president, like in order. It's crazy. I remember doing that for a test in high school. I memorized it, did good on it, but then after that, I couldn't tell you the week after that, because it was knowledge I no longer needed, But he's so smart, and Carrie is just an amazing mom. She reads to them, makes them read. Aaron struggles to communicate effectively, but yet the kid can read. It's just, he can count by sevens. He can do all kinds of stuff. So the sky's the limit for my boys, I believe.
That's awesome. So I guess the next question would be, how's Aaron doing now? What are as you guys look forward, you guys have you've equipped yourself, you've dealt with it, you've accepted it, but now, how's looking forward changed? What are you guys looking at for the future when it comes to Aaron?
Well, right now, Aaron has a lot of words. He's communicating his basic needs in complete sentences, and he adds more words to his vocabulary every day. A lot of them are through reading. We recognize that he likes to do that, so that's the kind of angle that we took with him. So I make him read out loud, because when you're trying to communicate with him, sometimes the recall is not there, but if he can see a word and read it, then he'll say it. So he's thriving, and he's building relationships. He has friends, and he's doing great. And this is kind of an answer to the future question. This was going to be my advice, but but this is a good time to say that. Do you have anything to add to that about how Aaron is doing?
Sure. Like I said, he's doing well, and I think he will turn out well. Just recently, he communicates a lot better. So again, I think he's going to be okay.
He's potty trained too.
Oh yeah.
Which he took to that right away, and we were so scared to do that. We were so we didn't know how we were going to potty train him, because if a kid can't talk and respond to you, how on earth are you going to teach him to go potty? And he's like a pro. He's since he learned the equipment early, he knew what
he knew early on where it was.
Yeah,
so that's a good
so
head
it just
start.
It was total fun for him.
So like I said before, both my boys are very smart, and even if Aaron struggles socially, when he gets older, I believe people will see his heart. he doesn't have to be a politician. He can be in technology where you're judged on what you can do. You know, there's all kind. The sky's the limit. I'm in IT. I'm not a salesman or something. I don't have meetings and talk in front of people hours and hours a day. You know, I talk when I need to, but there's the sky's the limit. And from a engineering, there's all kinds of opportunity there to have that kind of a brain, an analytical brain like that. It's really good. That's why I see the positive in that.
Well, for me, anxiety was a part of this, and that was when I would envision his future, I would get anxious about it. And God has miraculously, it's a miracle that he has shut down that part of my brain, because I cannot, I'm a daydreamer, and so I daydream a lot, but I can't daydream about what Aaron's future is going to be like, because, it's been a discipline of surrendering his little life to God and saying, I'm going to do the work that I have to today, but his future is in your hands. So I cannot control the outcome, and even if I could, it probably wouldn't be as good as what God could do when I give him full surrender to it. So, that would be some advice that I can honestly give that I've applied to my life, is that, for any parent, not just parents of children with special needs, but you cannot predict what's going to happen to your kids. You do the work that God gave you to do, and you take it today, and then you trust that he has your tomorrows. And I like this big old book that Karen gave me. Thanks for that. Well, first, can I open my big old Bible?
I suppose the Bible's allowed.
Is scripture allowed on these names?
You didn't pre-clear it, but I'll allow it.
All right, I'll allow it. So, 1 Peter, we all know this. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. And then I love this. And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. To him be the power forever and ever. Like you were saying before, we're going to get hurt. And when it's our kids, it's like 1,000 times worse. I wish things could happen to me. We all do that. I wish it could be me. If your kid gets sick, I wish I was the one who gets sick. But you're going to suffer for a little while, the Bible says. But God himself will restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast, which means that your faith will increase. You'll be more set in your faith and more firm on your feet. Things don't happen so they can knock you over. Things happen so you can know how to get up again and again and again. And, we have a good example right here, which means parents, you get up every day. And Dallas Willard, in this big old book, he says, he talks about the Lord's Prayer. And I'm sorry, I'm going to preach a little bit. So he talks about the Lord's Prayer and how Jesus said, pray like this: give us today our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. And here's what, let me open this, because here's what Dallas Willard said. He says, to have it in hand today does not guarantee that we will have it tomorrow when we need it. Today I have God, and he has the provisions. Tomorrow it will be the same. So I can't worry about what's provided to me tomorrow. I can't worry if I will have strength or patience or knowledge or wisdom tomorrow. Today I have God, and he has the provisions. Tomorrow it will be the same. So I simply ask today for what I need for today, and ask now for what I need now. And then this is my favorite part. He said, this is how children do it. A mother who discovers that her child is saving up oatmeal or pieces of toast or strips of bacon for fear of not having food tomorrow has cause to be alarmed. Any normal situation, parents will be astonished and pained that the child does not trust them to provide for it day by day. Don't we do this? We're like, this is such a good example. A child should never have to even think about future provision until it grows older and has that responsibility. And we're children of God. God's our Father, and He takes care of us. And as His children, we don't have to worry about tomorrow's provisions. We don't need that anxiety because today we have God, and He has everything. So I love that.
That's really good. So I actually had this conversation with someone the other day that when things are standard, we think we know what's going to happen. We think we can plan. We think we can arrange. And the truth is it takes things not being standard sometimes to teach us that we didn't have the control that we thought we had all along. And so I think you guys are a step ahead of a lot of us in recognizing that I don't have the control that I think I have in any situation. And in all situations, I'm wholly dependent on Him. I was talking with a friend yesterday because there was a guy at our church who got really sick right before Christmas. And his family had to make some tough decisions. And they said, we're going to remove him from this life support and that. We're going to not give him this intervention. And the doctor was preparing them. When you do this, he probably won't survive the night. And I'm having this same talk with the family that you know what? You aren't in control. You're not making the decision to end their. And the funny thing is that me and Scott just visited him yesterday. And so the truth is that everyone's sure something's not going to happen, and then it happens, and then no one thinks something's going to happen, and it happens. And the truth is we don't have the leash and the rein that we think we have on life, and it's always been God to begin with. So last thought was any advice, any thoughts you would share with people that you guys have picked up along the way?
Well, mine is that saying that God don't make no junk. Mom, was that on the fridge? Or is it school or something? I remember, but I remember that God don't make no junk. Like that's true. My advice is hold your head up and be proud of the family God gave you. Count your blessings. There's families and children much worse off than yours. Just go up to St. Louis Children's Hospital and you'll see. Moms and dads need to stick together and make life work because you already made a promise to God when you got married and your kids need you, especially the special needs kind of kids.
Yeah, definitely. And lean into your spouse because God gave you them as a helpmate. And just like God gave Eve to Adam, to help do life. You don't have to do this on your own. And find your tribe. Get a circle of friends. It'll make the difference. You don't have to do this. You don't have to parent alone. You don't have to be isolated. You don't have to live alone. We go to a church that is all the time saying, let's connect. It makes it easy to connect. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a person who easily connects with someone, you just need one. Mm-hmm. Maybe befriend someone who does connect easily to someone, and they can connect you to other people, or just pray about it because, again, God does not want us to do this alone. He doesn't want you to have your faith journey alone.
Right, and so maybe they should come to the house party.
Come to the house party Friday night at Gwen and Mindy's.
So yeah, I'm going to invite Ryan to come back. We're going to sing a song together. But I guess as we talked, we kind of opened talking about what it's like to be so different. But I did hear that while you guys are very different, you only need one pair of slippers between the two of you.
You stole my Uggs. I had a really nice pair of slippers, and Jimmy stole them.
Because you threw mine away.
Now look, we're coming off looking really good right now. Give it that way. I can't wear slippers after you. It's like, because it's like drinking milk after someone. I can't do that. So he stole my $100 pair of slippers.
All right, well, let's end on a real spiritual note. Ryan, we're going to sing, and then as soon as we're done singing, we're going to be done.
All right, if you would all stand with me.